Hey everyone, welcome back to another Persona 5 Findings video. In today's video, what we're going to be going over is the Summer Tomoko weapon difference. So I'm going to be testing a maxed out version of her 4-star versus a R0 or baseline version of her 5-star. And I'm going to be real, the overall differences are honestly not that much. But before I begin, this is what I did today and spent a lot of time doing. This took me about 3 hours to make. Doing 5 runs, quite literally took me 2-3 hours to do 5 runs of the 4-star version versus the 5-star version on specifically the Fire Guild on the Vishnu Guild boss. It required a lot of resetting, but it was better than trying to do the Dominion and trying to count for Wonder RNG of getting extra turn or not, because at least Vishnu I was able to do very consistently. I ran the same rotation over and over again 5 times, having to reset constantly when my rotation got messed up because I couldn't highlight when I wanted to because of knockdown. But with that being said, if you guys could do me a huge favor, this video took me about 5 to 6 hours to make just to do this little bit of weapon testing. If you do me a huge favor, hit that like button, and I'm going to show you guys this right now. I'm at 2,592 subscribers. If you could do me a huge favor as well and get me to 2,600, because that sounds a lot better than 2,592, that'd be a huge help. Anyway, with that, let's begin. So I was running this on the Vishnu Guild boss using my on team. My on team has a lot more investment in it than yours probably, because I have A6R0 on, and then I got A6R0 Kiyotori. But my Kiyotori is only level 70, and yes, I do have A1 Moko, but it actually doesn't do anything. A1 is honestly, I'm gonna be real with you guys, it's a waste. It's a waste of gems. Besides, if you just want to turn your skill 3 or skill 2, her heal, into an AoE heal. Because I'm going to be honest, the 45% stack, like the at max stack of the 15% for 45%, doesn't really do much. I'll keep it honest with you guys. Keep it honest with you. The best it does is turn her skill 2 into a full wide team heal. But my wonder, I was rocking the Executioner with maining Cert for that extra fire damage, as we can see here. A little bit extra fire damage there with Dionysus, and as well as Dominion. I was using quite literally just for Wonder, it was just a Maracunda into a Revolution into a Cohesion, Maracunda, Rebellion, Cohesion. That's it. That was my rotation for Wonder, while I was just spamming skill 2 and skill 3 on Smoko, and skill 1 and skill 3, and then skill 1 into skill 2, and just using skill 2 constantly on Kiyotori. That was my rotation with a skill 1, skill 3 on my Rico, because I have A6, and that's what you can do with her. But that is what happened. That is all the background information you need to know. Of course, with on being A6, it does lead up to a little more inconsistency in the damage numbers because of all the little of buff and sacks, and as well as the uncertainty of when using this. But I try to keep things consistently, and I'll show you guys one of my runs at the end of the video. But let's focus on more of the nerd stuff, because this is what we're actually here for. So as we can see here, I did 5 runs of A1 max 4-star and 5 runs of A1 at R0. Overall, when we actually look at the numbers, my biggest numbers differences are actually, what unsurprisingly, were my first resonance heal and damage. So her Moko's follow-up, you can see on the screen now. Moko's follow-up with her heal and damage. And then so when I'm looking at, for example, the first resonance damage done, so her first follow-up damage done, you can see there is quite a large difference, with it being 28% and then also a 25% difference. This is honestly just due to the difference of the weapons and her one passive. Because when I actually open up Moko real quick, right here, go to her weapon, so you can see that this one hit right here has an increased healing by 22%, and then also increase the multiplier for skill damage and healing from Summer Resonance by 18.5%. But when you also include that with her power memories, during battle increase Seaside Tomoko'S damage at max HP based on her HP recovery. When HP recovery is at 42, gains 70% side damage. So with her 5-star, you automatically start the battle with that. While on her 4-star, this is also, I'm going to tell you guys right now, this is also assuming, as you guys should already have, is a HP recovery on the moon. You should be running this, because without it, you cannot hit that. You will never hit that 70%. You need that. Unless, actually, let's double check. Yeah, you'll never hit it. Even with this, you only have 41.5%. But when you look at her 4-star, you need at least Forge 4, because you get the 29 plus the 22.6 to get you 43.5. Or you can just max out to get that little bit extra of attack with a little bit extra of increased healing at Forge 6. But Forge 4 minimum. But when you actually look at her 4-star weapon, you need to already activate a Summer Reminiscence to get in the first place. And that's why we see such a stark difference between these two. And also, a little bit of why we see a stark difference for the last resonance damage done, as compared to just the healing, because of what the weapon does. It just increased by 18.5%. So just a little bit of that, like I said, that variables within the fight itself and the RNG of numbers, and then also with the additional 18.5%. And of course, that 17% when we also look at her 5-star. Keep clicking on the wrong one. But we're also seeing that we have a 17% damage taken increase here, and an additional 12% defense decrease down here. So all that kind of is why we see the little bit of a difference. But actually, it makes sense why I see a increase of about a 28 of a 25 and a 28% a little bit. It doesn't perfectly align with what we're seeing, with what the number's saying, but that's just the way with the little variation goes. And that's why I did 5 runs. Realistically, I should have done 10 runs, but that would have actually taken an entire day's worth of time. And I'm gonna be real, I don't have the patience for that. I'll give it a luck with you. And then the second one, again, unsurprisingly, was the last resonance damage done. So when I did my last follow-up, because all I focused on was the first follow-up heal and damage, last follow-up heal and damage, first on highlight, last on highlight, and then skill 3, first and last of on, and then finally the final score. Because those were the easiest to keep track of, and I felt that it was where I saw the most consistency of trying to keep things damage going. As we can see here, we have a long range. And then the least difference we actually saw was the last on skill 3, the skill 3 average. We saw a difference of a 2%, 1.69%. This was my worst difference. And it's because my average for skill with her 4-star weapon was 175,373.8, while for her 5-star was 178,348.8. That was my worst average difference. So, but when I actually look at the score difference, we had about a 5% overall improvement of the consistency, because we were going from a 38 million all the way to a 40 million. So just right here, basically 1.9 million difference. And then, or I can actually just do this minus that, and that'll tell you exactly. So yeah, 1.87 million. That's what the difference was for the average score. But that's because of the amount of variance within doing Guild Boss. Guild Boss is a nice way to do it. It's not the perfect way, but because now we don't have to rely on crits, all that damage is added on afterwards. Now we just have a little bit of variance within the skill itself. And that's why my range goes from right here, 39.1 million, all the way to a 39.4 million. That's right. One of my 4-star runs actually did better than one of my 5-star runs, because I had 39.4 to 39.1 million. That is actually quite the stark difference, and I find that actually quite hilarious. And then while my greatest run to my least run, if we actually go here, equal, and then subtract it out over here, was only about a 1.88 million difference, which was about my average. So averagely speaking, you should expect about a 5% increase overall across the entirety of the run. Again, we could narrow that down even further to be probably close to the 5% or close to a 4% difference if I did more runs and increase it exponentially. Of course, we can always do that, but that's how math works. I'm sure you guys love that. But overall, that is what the difference was about a 5% difference. And when I actually sit down and went over it, I think when you took the average of all of this, it was about a 9% difference. Not too much. But we should only be concerned about the later halves, because these first resonance doesn't really matter as much because of how much the difference is. Because I'm going from 440, like 410, all the way to a high of 574. So not that much of a difference. Same with the initial heal. But when I actually look at when we started having buffs and everything going, we're going from a 7100 high over here all the way to a 6600 high over here. So not that big of a deal for the overall healing. Same with the overall damage done when you're actually looking at the hits done. And you're kind of seeing the same picture across the board. Like, yes, overall, the 5-star weapon is better, but I would say it's probably better to save your pulls or only do a few multis if you want the weapon. If you don't actually care about the weapon, throw a few multis in, because like 3,000 gems worth is not that much, and I think it is worth it. But going double hard pity on it, I don't think is worth it. Maybe 1 pity might be fine. I think overall count value wise is worth it, but that's only going from, power wise. If we look at the overall, to me, this is another case of a drip pull. I way prefer the look of these goofy little wands compared to the sparklers. It was not as much of a drip pull as when I did my Makoto video, because these are just like significantly better. Let's just get this off the screen. Significantly better, more of a drip pull. But I do believe, for my account, and I know a lot of other people, hint Melissa H, definitely was a drip pull. And I assume some of you either. Same with, I believe, if you guys watch CJ pull, he also said that these were a drip pull. But overall, if you're looking for account value wise, you can comfortably skip this weapon and move on. It's not that big of a deal. And the last thing I wanted to cover is that if you look, hopefully this video helps you guys decide what you want to do. I'm going to end the video there. Like I said, if you guys can do me a huge favor, hit the like button and also subscribe down below, just because I'm so close to 2,600 subs. Again, thank you guys. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye for now.